and we were all holding hands as she took her last breath. And as she did, I literally felt her spirit rise above the bed. And when I looked above the bed, I saw the most like brilliant, magnificent colors you could ever imagine. Like, I don't even think they're in this world. And they were forming a star and they were beating in and out like a heartbeat. And in that moment, like everything changed for me. I
Brandy, hi. Thanks so much for meeting with us today. I'm really looking forward to your story. I have a fascination with people that are psychic, that are mediums. I've tried to do it on my side. I just don't know. And I know that you are a mentor, so I think that's pretty a positive for me. So, without further ado, let's just go into your story. And how did you start? I'm assuming you've already had this gift from a young age, but I'm just going to let you speak.
Sure. So first, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Um, so yeah, to tell you about my story, yeah, it did start when I was very young. I would say I was about 10 or 12 years old, and I wasn't seeing spirits, but I was hearing them. So imagine being like a 10-year-old child who I'm hearing things, but I know it's not my thought, but it's in my voice. And so that was really confusing to me. And so I really wasn't sure what it was. So I really tended to ignore it. And I didn't want to tell anyone about it because I thought maybe they think I was crazy. So I was just, really confused about it. And then fast forward like many years later, and I actually was having a very profound spiritual experience. My grandma was passing away, and we were all in her hospice room, my family and I, and we were all holding hands as she took her last breath. And as she did, I literally felt her spirit rise above the bed. And when I looked above the bed, I saw the most like brilliant, magnificent colors you could ever imagine. Like, I don't even think they're in this world. And they were forming a star and they were beating in and out like a heartbeat. And in that moment, like everything changed for me. I understood that these had been spirits talking to me, which I had a feeling anyway, but it just gave me that confidence like, okay, I clearly have a gift. It also removed my fear of death because I knew she was at peace. I knew she was calm. I knew that her angels and spirit guides were there to welcome her into the spirit world. And I actually had to leave the room because it was so like profound and so just like I didn't know, like it was just so powerful, I guess is the word. So my cousins thought I couldn't handle how sad it was, and here it was like I was going through the complete opposite. I was like having this amazing experience. But yeah, I also knew that she wanted me to see that, and I knew that I would talk to her again, and that just like that started my journey, and I really got into it. So I started reading a ton of books, but like books weren't doing anything, like so I was like listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, watching TV shows, and nothing was working. Like I still had these spirits talking to me whenever they wanted, and so I couldn't control it. I couldn't tell them to go away, and I also didn't know who their messages were for. So I felt very guilty. Like these spirits are coming to me for a message, but I don't know who they're for. What do I do with this? So I finally found a mentor, and she was so hard to find. It took me years to even find one. And once I worked with her, I would say maybe an hour a month for 6 months, and then my abilities just skyrocketed. I was able to contact spirits on demand and do mediumship readings. I was able to tell them to go away and kind of tell them when my open office hours were, so I wasn't being bombarded all the time. And so now I feel like that's really my mission here is there's a mentor and a coach for everything, whether you play a sport or meditate or whatever it might be, but there's really no one to teach you how to develop your psychic abilities. So I created this Jumpstart Your Psychic Abilities mentorship program so that people just have a place to go, like, and they have someone to take them step by step, exactly what I did through my journey, and so that I can help them with their journey.
Wow. You know, I know a lot of people that are able to see someone passing over are able to understand that there is life after death, and that's actually your real home. But to actually see it, I've never heard of anyone describe it like that, that heartbeat. But yeah, I presume that's is it the etheric body or the star body that you actually saw?
Yeah, absolutely. But in that moment, I just obviously wasn't expecting it, and so it was crazy that everyone around me was so sad and they're crying, and here I am like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and like just like knowing without knowing how I knew it, right? But like I just knew that she was at peace, and so it was crazy, and it actually took me years to even tell my family that that's what was going on, because you don't want to hinder their grief, or you don't know when is the right time to say that this is what I was experiencing. So yeah, it's crazy how, because we don't talk about it in our society, that I was even afraid to tell my own family. Now, once I did tell my own family, here apparently I am from a line of psychics, and no one was surprised that
That's what
I
I was
was
going to ask
experiencing
you.
all of this. Yeah, they were like, "Oh, yeah, your aunt was one. Your great grandma used to be one. My own mom like had some psychic experiences." So they weren't surprised when I told them. But it was crazy that I was 10 years old and no one's talking about it. I think I'm all alone, and people just like don't talk about it. So I want to be like the spokesperson. Like I will talk about it all day and let people come out of their spiritual closet. Like I want more light workers in this world. So let's all talk about it.
So I know when I was 4 years old, I was about 3 or 4, I heard someone calling me. I was in my bedroom, but it was a man's voice and it was loud. And I was looking everywhere around me and I couldn't see this person. Then I thought maybe it's my uncle. But when I went outside, I ran outside because I was scared. He was sitting there, so it wasn't my uncle. And I told everyone at the table that someone was calling me, and they said, "Don't be ridiculous, everyone's here." And everybody was there. And from that day, I've never heard anything. So I'm sure that I had the ability, but I've shut it off completely, and I've never known how to reactivate that. How does someone reactivate or even
Yeah.
activate their abilities?
Yeah. So first, I just want to say, like, man, you were only 3 or 4. That really had a profound impact on you if you still remember it, right? Because I don't think I remember anything from when I was 3 or 4.
I remember it like it was
Yeah.
yesterday.
So, really, what develops your psychic ability is visualizations. So, visualizations are connected to the part of the brain that's called the pineal gland, which is also known as your third eye chakra. It's your mind's eye. It's that muscle in your brain that creates imagination. So, a lot of the visualizations will be like, see a white light coming down from the sky, or imagine seeing balloons in your mind. So, a lot of people think, aren't I just like imagining this? And you are. And that's the muscle that you really need to strengthen to be able to develop your psychic abilities. And there's 2 reasons for that. The stronger you can get your visualizations going, when spirit gives you a message, it'll come in that stronger because you've already worked out that muscle. So think of like going to the gym. It's a muscle that's really never been worked out. You really need to put the time into it. And it's not that much time, maybe like 20 to 30 minutes a day to really activate it. And then the second reason is, if you created something in your mind, you created it. But if spirit comes in and gives you a vision, then you can say, wait a minute, I didn't just create that. And now it's a message from spirit. So that's kind of the very quick version of how to get your psychic abilities really going.
And they speak in images, right? So you might have a different image that somebody else would have. So butterfly might represent something else to me that it would to you.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. And it's not just images. So if it's image, that means you're clairvoyant, which means you're clear at seeing. But I'm actually clairaudient, so I'm actually clear hearing, meaning I mainly hear them. So even though I'm using the word visualization, I always teach my clients, it might not be a visualization for you. It might be a hearing or a knowing or a sensing, or, so you have to figure out like which clear sense or which of your physical 5 senses are the strongest for you in while you're using your intuition to get those messages.
yeah. And how would they know? How does a person know? Is it just something that they would go based on feeling or?
It is based on feeling. So your clairsenses are connected with your intuition, which is like your sixth sense, right? So a lot of my program is developing your intuition so that you the big thing with everyone, and even myself when I started, is that self-trust. Because your rational mind comes in and says, hey, there's no science on this, there's no way you know this, and there's a big battle there between your gut feeling and your rational mind. Your rational mind's always going to come in and say you're wrong. So it's really a matter of developing that intuition, trusting yourself, and then which will then let you trust the messages from spirit.
Yeah. So you say you heard voices. Was it like one or was it many? Do you have like a whole lot of guides, or how is your relationship with them?
Sure. So I basically, so right now, because I've developed my ability, I can turn it off and on when I want. So when it's on, I hear many, but I let them know, like, just as though you're in a room and 10 people are talking to you at once, like, I can't talk to all of you at once. Like, you have to take your turns, right? Or I can also turn it off and be like, you know what? I'm going out to dinner with my friends later and nobody can talk to me. So you really have to set boundaries just like you would with a human. Like, these are my boundaries. And because a different spirit can come and talk to you every day, you have to set your boundaries every day because they won't know. Like, maybe they weren't here yesterday. So you have to really set that every day when you're a medium. So what was the other part of your question? I'm sorry.
Well, do you get to know them? Do you have a relationship with them? Do you do
So
you sit at home and have a conversation with them?
sure. So my spirit guides, absolutely. Like, they're amazing. I love talking to my spirit guides. And I also have the gift to be able to speak with other people's spirit guides. So it's kind of like a game of telephone. Like, I contact my spirit guide, then they contact their spirit guide, and then I get the message through their spirit guide. So that's how that kind of works. So I do still do mediumship readings and spirit guide readings. But yeah, so I only really know my spirit guides. When I do a mediumship reading, I'm only tuning into that like deceased loved one for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and then I have to tell them to go away. So they're people that I'm not talking to on a regular basis, but the spirit guides, absolutely.
Have you ever had somebody like somebody's guides just coming through you random in public where you don't know anyone, where they say, hey, can you give this one a message? Does that happen?
It does. It does. And I know some psychics will give that message, but I'm just someone who won't, because I feel like you don't know what their belief system is. You don't know like how fragile they are, or how long ago that person passed, what their grieving process is, and it would really, I think, cut someone off guard. Like, they're not ready for that. When you do a mediumship reading for someone, they've booked it in advance. They know what to expect. They're emotionally ready for that message. They want that message, but to just give it to someone randomly, like, I don't want to like freak someone out or upset them. So I have to tell the spirit, like, unfortunately, I'm sorry, I can't give your message.
So I know there's a guy, I think he's on YouTube or TikTok, that he's a taxi driver or an Uber driver.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So is that kind of what he does, or is that all a setup? Or
I doubt it's a setup. I just hope that he's asking them permission. Can I give you this reading, before he just goes ahead and gives it? So I don't know it too well. I've heard of it. I don't know if I've actually watched it, but yeah, I just hope that's a big thing, is asking permission. Like, even if someone books a reading with me, at the reading, I'm still saying, do I have your permission? Because that's a big thing, just to be like morally and ethically okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And your grandmother, you've obviously spoken to her since that day.
Yes, I can talk to her like basically whenever I want. So it really just shows that when someone passes away, it's just a different way that they're still in our lives. They might send you signs even though you don't know what you're looking for. But yeah, they're still with us, just in a different way. And it's really a beautiful way of looking at things, versus it's a goodbye, right? So it's not a final goodbye. It's just like I'll see you later. I know I'm going to see her again when I pass away. So it's really just this like comforting, healing experience that I can now have.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you earlier because they say that psychic runs in the family. So, but if everybody is actually able to do it anyway and we've blocked it, then it would make sense that it runs in pretty much everybody's family. But I do think that some people are more able to access it than others. Maybe it's
Yeah,
just
so
having that openness. Mm.
Absolutely. So the difference between being a psychic and having psychic experiences is that everyone has psychic experiences because we all have that sixth sense. We all have intuition. But a psychic is someone who has developed it. So they have control over it. They know how to use it for their life's higher purpose. They know how to help other people with it. So I actually have a free ebook. If your audience wants to go to my website, it's
Absolutely.
brandyvan.com. If they sign up for my email newsletter list, they will get a fun little quiz. And it's basically showing you what psychic experiences are. And then it also divides it into categories because there's so many different types of psychics. You can be an empath, you could be a medium like me, you could be a healer. And so if you don't know what a psychic experience is, you don't know you're having them. So I really feel like that's the first step. You need to realize, like, have you experienced deja vu? You might think that's a human experience, but that's actually a psychic experience. Have you ever thought of someone that you haven't talked to in like 20 years and then they end up calling you later that day? Like, that's a psychic experience. So there's things that people don't know what to look out for. And then they're like, oh no, I'm not a psychic, but they haven't known what to look out for.
So what is deja vu?
So deja vu, it's a couple different things. So from my understanding, deja vu is when you had a dream of that exact situation, but you don't remember the dream. And then when you have it in your real life and you're experiencing it right now, it's like, oh my gosh, I've already lived through this. But it's actually that you dreamt about it. You just don't remember having that dream. The other way of deja vu that I understand is it could be from your past life. So it could actually be a same experience, not maybe with the same person or the same exact situation, but it might be so familiar that it was actually something that you experienced in your past life. So a couple of different things I've read there, but yeah.
Yeah, because I had such a big deja vu yesterday. I was helping my dad paint, and as I was laying down the newspapers, I had a thought that said, "You had this experience, and you chose to go along this timeline, and now you're in this timeline." And that's what came up in my head, and I was like,
Wow.
"Okay, wow!"
Wow.
But it was strong. It was really strong. But
Yeah.
yeah, I also think that. I think it's almost like it's a premonition of something that's going to happen, and then it happens. So you haven't actually been there before. You had the premonition that it could happen.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. And, before when we first started talking, you said, I haven't had any experiences since I was 3 or 4, but that's one right there. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, you had a download. You probably had that message come in from your spirit guide, but because you don't realize it, you're missing the messages. So that might have been a message for you yesterday, but you didn't even like realize it because you don't know what to look out for or what that experience was.
Yeah, I mean, like to me, it would be nice if I could have a direct conversation that said, "Okay, I want this question answered. Yes, sure, Natasha. This is what we're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to tell you," versus, "Oh, you're going to be laying newspaper down while you're painting." That
Yeah.
just it seems a little bit indirect to me, so I have a hard time picking
Yeah.
that up. But again, as I said before, I'm absolutely fascinated. So, if I may, would your guides or whoever be able to give a message to people watching, whether it's now or in the future? Is there something that they would maybe want to share, and are you okay with that?
So usually a spirit guide will only give it to that one person. If I wanted
Okay,
to do it for a group, that's when you go into the Akashic Records, which is
okay,
the records where like everything and everyone has ever lived and ever will live. And that's something that I don't do myself. I feel like you need a really specialty for that. I could probably practice it and figure out how to do it, but I haven't done that yet. But if you want me to tap into your spirit guides right now,
yeah,
I could do that for you if you'd like.
sure, sure,
Okay, great.
that would be
Let me
great.
grab my pen. So what I do is first I just clear my mind, and then I just start to do automatic writing, which is where I let the pen just start writing. And it's not me writing, it's them writing through me. Do you have a question for your spirit guide that you would like to ask?
Yes, I would like to know how I can connect with them. I
Okay.
would really like to know, why can't I hear them, and will I be able to get that back?
Okay. So right away they're saying through writing.
Uh,
So do you ever do journal writing or anything like that? You do?
mhm.
Okay. So I feel like when you're doing a journal writing, you want to ask, like, write down your question and then just pause for a moment and then feel the answer, hear it. They might send you an image, but it seems like a big thing for you is going to be through writing. That's going to be your biggest way to be able to connect with them. So just like we're doing here, you would write down your question, then pause, and then it's only going to be like 5 seconds before they start giving you that answer. Any longer than that, your rational mind's getting in there, and then you're doing your own writing back to yourself. So it's going to be very instantaneous, but writing seems to be a big thing right there.
That's interesting. I started doing that a couple of months ago, and then I stopped. I was like, nah, I'm making this up.
Yeah, and that's what I meant by the self-trust. Everyone thinks they're making it up. Like, even when I started, I was doing readings for people and they were like, oh, you're spot on. That's exactly my grandma or whatever. And I'd still be like, am I making this up? Like, and they're even telling me I'm not. Like, this is exactly, there's no way you would have known this, and you still, for whatever reason, doubt yourself. So yeah, stop doubting yourself. I know it's not that easy, but that's my best advice. Any other questions for your spirit guides while they're here?
Yes, I would love to know about astral traveling too, because I'm absolutely fascinated by it. And I know that it's all possible, but I've been trying for quite a while to do it, and I cannot get myself out of my body. What is blocking me?
Okay. Are you having some fears about it?
I had for a while, and now I've decided I don't really have fears about it.
Okay.
They
went straight to fears. So there's some kind of fear in there. So do you start with a meditation practice when you do it?
Yeah. So I put everything aside into my little energy box, and then I do breathing, and then I visualize energy vortex around me, and then I allow myself just to completely relax. Sometimes I have white noise just to focus on the noise, or I focus because I have ringing in my ears, and I don't know if that's whatever that is, but then I focus on that, and then I'm able to get myself into a sleep. But I find as soon as I start sleeping, something itches. And then it's incredibly itchy, and I have to do my best not to touch it. And then it goes away, but by that time, either my arms lose feeling or something happens, or I'm able to get into the vibration stage. And as soon as I get there, I could try and lift up and nothing happens. And then I just give up, because then it's 2 hours later and it's bedtime.
Okay. So they did just say that have you tried it in the morning, right when you first wake up?
I have had an experience where something was walking on my bed and then sat on my chest. And it wasn't a good feeling. It felt like a cat or something with long legs. And then I was like, get off me. And I couldn't speak. And then I turned over to my side and it was gone. So I have had that experience, but that was once. Yes.
Okay. So they seem that they want you to try it as soon as you wake up in the morning. They think you're going to have the most success then. But I just from me, not your spirit guides talking, but everything that you're experiencing is part of the process. So that feeling of like uncomfortableness, of something sitting on you, that pressure, the ringing in your ear, that's all getting you there. And so the other part of it would be raising your vibration. So doing a lot of like reading positive affirmations, trying to get your vibration up. But the first step whenever you do astral projection, and I don't do this myself. I've never astral projected, but you actually go to the lower realm first. And so negative entities will come there. So if you have any fears, it might be your spirit guides that are protecting you because they might not feel that you're ready yet. So I would think that you need to get rid of those fears and really keep yourself emotionally balanced. If you start to get anxious or fearful at all, it's going to get you right back into your body. So you really got to become really emotionally balanced. But as far as what they're saying, really they only said to try it in the morning.
So could you ask them if they could help me out on the other side? Like if I knew that I'm going to do it, can they be there with a helping hand so that I can just bypass that lower realm?
They said they'll absolutely be there for you, but you have to go to the lower realm first. But they can be there to protect you in the lower realm. So I would say to speak with them, and even if you don't get their answers, that doesn't mean they're not hearing you. They're always with us, and they're here to help us. So even if you're not, getting an answer back, definitely talk to them still and tell them, like, set that intention of, I need your protection. I want your protection right now. Set your intention of, I will astral project. Instead of saying, I want to astral project, say, I will astral project. So a lot of time it's the way that you're setting your intention. And another question that I get about spirit guides a lot, just because we're on that topic, is like, can I ask them too much? And the way that spirit guides work, absolutely not. You can ask them and ask them for help all the time, because the more that they help us, the higher they go up in the spirit world. So they're actually getting more enlightened and they're ascending higher in the spirit world. So they want to help us. It's a two-way street there. They're helping us, but we're also helping them ascend higher.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. It makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah. So, and I know there are various realms. I think, didn't Edgar Casey, he had to go, because which realm is the Akashic Records in? That's not in the lower realm, right? That's
No,
a
yeah,
few
that's
up.
in the upper. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, oh, wow, that's interesting. So
Do
you
you have
do,
someone named Anna that you're somehow related? Is there an Anna anywhere?
no, Anna, that I know of.
Okay. I keep getting this name Anna, but I get names all day long. But I just wanted to make sure it wasn't for you.
Yeah. No, I don't know any Anna.
Okay.
Um, I know a Hannah, but I don't know an Anna.
Okay.
Okay, so you do a mentorship program, right? So how
Yes.
does that work? How do you do it on Zoom? Do you have a group program, or what do you do?
Yes. So everything's over Zoom. So that way I feel like I can reach the most people that way. So it is a group mentorship. I also have one-on-one as well. There are bi-weekly Q&A calls, and they also have access to me all the time through my email if they have any questions. And then I also have, like, the way the program is they read, and then there's a video about what they just read, and that's the visualization. So yeah, it's a lot of reading and then visualization videos. They have access to it for their entire lives, so it's not like, oh, in this 90 days, I'm going to magically be psychic. I can't tell them that, but I can tell them if they keep doing this and keep working out their psychic muscle, they will become a psychic. But I go through everything they need to know, through grounding, protecting their energy, how to protect themselves as an empath, raising your vibration, how to connect with cosmic energy, your higher self, your spirit guides. So basically, like, everything you'd ever need to know. And it's really just like, that place of, there's so much stuff out there. Where do I get started? And instead of buying like 100 books and wasting your time reading them, or taking like these little 1 hour one-off classes and then not having anybody to ask questions to, this is just very comprehensive and extensive for people to just really get it started.
No, that sounds amazing. Because like you are looking for a mentor, a lot of people are not offering that. Most mediums or psychics that you hear of are doing it just because that's what they're doing. And in fact, you're the first person I've heard that said they're able to switch it off and say office hours only. Because a lot of people have actually suppressed their entire gift because they didn't want to be bombarded.
Yeah.
And that's
And
pretty
that's
sad.
actually, if someone has a gift and they don't want it, the way to stop it is to develop it. And so then you can turn it off.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
would never
So
turn mine off. I love it.
I think it's something everybody needs. Everybody is like, because we're not here on our own, like you say, we're here on a spiritual journey. We're spiritual beings in a human body, and we have access to all that information. And I'm sure, I mean, all the great ideas were channeled. They didn't just come from some person sitting around. They tapped into that field and got the information and got the download. And if people are more open to that, can you imagine what world we would be in right now?
I know, it would be amazing.
But then, of course, we are in a world where they are trying to shut down those people's abilities. So, what about that? What about people that are like, they said that a lot of stuff that's being put in our food nowadays is closing off the pineal gland so that we are not able to access the spirit world. Is there a way around that? Is there a way that people can open up their third eye?
Oh, absolutely. There's so many ways to open it up, and that's something I go over in my mentorship program. But I just feel like because it's an individual practice, spirituality is really something individually, that no one can ever turn it down. You know what I mean? So there's never going to be someone that can tell me that I can or can't do it, just like someone can or can't tell me what my subjective experience is. So if I have a skeptic that comes in and says it's not real, it's, I look at them as they're the crazy one, and they might be looking at me as I'm the crazy one, but I'm like, no, this is 100% real. Like, you can't say anything that's going to make me think this isn't real. So yeah, I don't think that anyone can ever take that individual experience away from you.
No. And anyway, isn't that just fear-based? Because, I mean, a few hundred years ago, you would have been burnt at the stake. So a lot of people would have suppressed that for fear of being persecuted.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think if someone would have told us 100 years ago that there's going to be this computer and you can look up anything and learn anything about the internet, like they would have thought that was a crazy person, and they probably would have went to jail or a crazy, like the mental institution or something for that. So I do think that, I don't know if it'll be in our lifetime, but I do think scientists at some point are going to figure this all out. Like, I know right now they're even working on, at different universities, there's something called I forget what the exact name is, but it's either like the spirit phone or the psychic phone, where you'll actually like be able to call up your deceased loved ones. So there's like,
Oh, wow.
just like, oh yeah, just like in paranormal right now, where there's like EMF meters and all these different technologies. There's scientists working on all this right now, and I'm like, if they make a phone, like I won't have a job anymore.
I know, you'd be the operator.
Yeah, right.
Well, the thing is, I know Lyle Watson, he wrote a book many years ago called Supernature. And he had we had those old tape recording devices.
Mm-hmm.
If he put the volume on really loud while he was recording, you could hear voices talking. And that was done in the 1970s and 80s. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that was those days already.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are organizations right now that, the scientists are working with the mediums to see how they're connecting. So they're putting like electrodes on their brains. They're seeing I don't know, all the science words, but like they're looking at the wavelengths and the frequencies to see how we're tuning in. So I feel like even though it's still a very large gap, I do feel like the gap is closing a bit there between the scientists and the mediums, which is great.
Which is about time. I think the world's,
right?
It's growing at a rapid rate. Yeah.
Yes.
Because
yeah.
if you'd spoken about this the way we are now, 10 years ago even, it would have been, and now it's kind of normal. I mean, if they're announcing aliens and nobody even bats an eyelid.
Right? Yeah, that's true.
Go, aliens. True. So
what? Yeah.
I need coffee now. Anyway, so tell me, where can people get hold of you?
Sure. So the best way is my website, brandyvan.com. That's Brandy with an I. And they'll find all my services on there, my blog posts. I have articles, other podcasts that I've done. So a wealth of information. And then if they are interested, they could book a call with me. Even if it's not to even like work with me, if they just need a like-minded individual that maybe they're afraid to tell people what they've been experiencing, and I can be that listening ear for them, I would love to even just be that for them, because I know how alone it can feel when, you're having these experiences and might not have anyone to talk to. So yeah, they can definitely reach out to me. I could talk about this stuff all day long, and there's nothing they can tell me that will make me judge them or that I haven't heard before. So yeah, I'm an open book if they have any questions or anything like that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, I'll have all your links below as well. And I know that nothing on the other side is hidden. So even your thoughts can be seen. So even if you try and hide something, it doesn't matter, because everybody just is who they are. There's no such thing as shame or secrets or anything like that. It just is what it is. So tell me, last question, your theory on Hitler, for example. Like, did he go to heaven?
Wow. So, geez, I mean, I do believe that he went to heaven. And again, this is not like me being religious. This is, I'm not a religious person. I'm only spiritual, but I do believe that when we pass, because you're being transferred to another place, you are still, we're all going to the spirit world. So I believe that he went to the spirit world. He might have went down to hell for a little bit, but I believe that if you call out for God's help, or whatever you want to call it, the divine creator, if you call out for help, he will then lift you up. But that doesn't mean that he's having a good time in heaven if he's there. He's doing a lot of, looking back at what he's done to people. And then really what's going to get him is his karma. So when he goes into the next life, man, is he going to have a rough time, because that's where his hell will begin. So even though he might have had that little reprieve in the spirit world, as soon as he gets reincarnated, his karma is going to come back and bite him. So yeah, that's where he's going to have a really hard time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. So wherever you ended is where you start off in your next life. So depending on what you did, you can go and have a bit of a break back where you started, but then that veil of forgetfulness will come back down again.
Yeah.
And surely he would choose that too for himself.
Sorry, choose what?
To come back, to pay it back.
Yeah.
Or would he just keep pushing the karma away and saying, no, I'm just going to
I don't think he has a choice on that one. No, I don't think he has a choice. Just like people can build up positive karma, I mean, his negative karma is so bad that who knows how many lifetimes he would actually have to come back to still like combat that negative karma.
Well, this is the, yeah. I mean, like, there's so much unknown that like out there, but I just wonder about questions like that. Like,
yeah,
if you've gone and had so many people killed, does that mean that you have to be killed so many times? At what point?
I don't think it's a matter of being killed. I think it's a matter of the suffering that you're going to go through.
Yeah.
And for how long? Let's say he lives 10 more lives. Like, I don't know how many lives it would take to get rid of all that bad karma,
And again, you don't know that something didn't happen to him before by those people, and that now he just paid them back. And it just keeps playing out over and over again.
I don't believe karma works like that, because our whole purpose here on earth is to help each other and to do better. So I feel like that was more his personal will, his own choices that he made, not obviously his purpose to be here on earth. So I feel like he definitely went off track there, as anyone would that's that evil, if I could say.
Yeah, I mean, because, you can have this thought that it's all just a game anyway, and we're just here to experience, and so what? I came here to have my legs blown off. That was just the experience I chose. But really, the body suffers, you feel the pain, but maybe that is what people want. Maybe they do say, I want to experience the highs and the lows. I don't just want to have the highs, because then I won't have anything to compare with.
Yeah, and also the easier your life is, the less you have to learn. And that's why we're here as well. But someone who is, like, let's say how you just said, like, an amputee or something, and they might not have chosen that specifically, but they might have chosen a hard life. And the reason people do that is because then you don't have to come down to earth as often. So the easier your life is, the more lives you're going to have, because you haven't learned what you need to. But the harder your life is, even though it's hard, life is hard, the less times you have to come here, because you will ascend higher because of all your struggles. So it's that balance of, do I want an easy life and come more times, or do I just have the hardest life ever so I don't have to come back to this hard life again?
Well, even if it is just for the joy of the experience and being in the physical, then, I took some ayahuasca a couple of years ago. And in that night, you have to actually die to that plant vine, because they call it's the plant of the dead, or the vine of the dead, I think it's called. And there was no time. Time just stood still. And I remember saying to myself, if I could just wake up in the morning and have a linear time and feel like there's today and then there's tomorrow, I will be so happy, because it was so stressful. That night was hectic. It was really hectic. But I mean, in spirit world, there isn't day and night. It's just, there is no time. So does that mean, maybe that's my fear? Maybe my fear is I'm going to go into a time warp there, and then I'll be stuck in this time warp. Because, that was pretty scary. You had to actually surrender if you wanted to get yourself through in a sane state of mind. Okay, I know I said that was the last question, but I have one more question. Sure. What about suicide? Because I've heard different accounts. So I just want to hear your account. Some people say that suicide, like Dolores Cannon said, that if you commit suicide, you're going to go right back and start again, and it's a no-no. Where other people have said, maybe you chose a life that's too hard and you just needed to, step back a bit or something. What's your take on that?
Sure. So my take is that suicide is never the answer. You're disrupting whatever plan there was for you. So no matter how hard it was, I believe that the divine creator will never give you something that you can't go through. So I think that when someone does commit suicide, they're still going to go to the spirit world. They're still going to have those extra lives. But that is going to add to their karma, because that is something that they decided when they're leaving this world, and it wasn't in the divine plan. But I do know that, and I hate saying this, but a lot of people assume that as soon as their loved ones cross over, that everything is just peaceful and they're happy. But I have had, spirits come to me that have either committed suicide, or maybe they've died young in a car accident or something. And I hate telling people, but they're not always happy and they're not always peaceful. They will get to that point. And in our life, it could be maybe 15 years. Now, again, time doesn't exist over there. So for them, I don't know, it might feel like 2 seconds. But for us, it could be years and years until they reach that point of acceptance or peace. So that's something to keep in mind as well, because I think that people think if I commit suicide, I'm going to go on to the other side and it's better. But you don't know what that better is. It's kind of like the grass isn't always greener on the other side, because you don't know what's going to be on that other side, or the karma that you're going to create in your next life.
Yeah, I like that. And also, you're affecting other people's life paths around that too, because you might have maybe had to meet somebody and you don't get to meet them, or have children and you don't have children.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you really interrupted that plan that was for you. Yeah. So that's never part of the plan, is what I guess I should say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, and thanks for the reading. I wasn't expecting it, but maybe it can help somebody else out there as well. I'll definitely do it in the mornings.
Sure. And remember too, if you're going to astral project, you're always going to come back to your body. It's as soon as you get emotionally charged or something is scary, you're going to just jar right back into yourself. So don't be afraid that you're going to be stuck there forever, or that you're going to go into that time warp. So I would love for you to let me know how it goes, if and I actually have a book that I could recommend on that as well. I'll email you after this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I can post it below as well, and then everybody else who's interested can read it too.
Okay.
Because I think that is the next natural progression, because people are afraid. There's actually a group, and I didn't know that this existed, but it's called, I think it's thanatophobia, which is fear of dying. And they are deathly scared. They're living in fear daily of the fact that they're going to die and they're going to just cease to exist. Yeah. And if you know that there's no such thing, then it takes away all of that fear. And I think a lot of people are living according to religious principles because of this so-called you're going to go to hell if you commit a sin and all that they're not even enjoying living. It's all structured and rigid, and the joy is taken out of it. Do it because it lights you up, not because it's going to keep you in line for some day of reckoning one day.
Yeah, and I think that's just that fear of the unknown. They don't know, and that's what gives them so much fear. But it's unfortunate that in our society, the fear of the unknown turns into something negative instead of something positive.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. It was lovely to hear from you. And
yes.
I'll post all your links below. And if anybody in the audience would like to connect with you, then they'll have all your details. And thank you for sharing, because the more people can do this, the better the world becomes.
Yes. All right. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Have an awesome day.
You too.